when she saw me, the transformation was so shocking to her in terms of just my physical body had transformed. She's like, girl, are you okay? Are you sick? What's happening?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reshape Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan Nolte, and today I am so delighted to introduce you to Teneshia Jackson Warner. She's the founder and CEO of the EGAMI Group, which is a multi-million-dollar marketing firm, also the founder of the Dream Project and author of The Big Stretch. She is going to talk with us today about how her own personal health transformation has really changed how she has shown up in her business. And for those of you who have listened to me for a while, especially for my intimate Zivley members, you know I talk about this quite a bit, that the growth of my business and the skills that I've had to develop are very similar to the mindset and skills that someone has to develop to grow their own healthy lifestyle. So I'm really delighted to meet you, Teneshia, and let's just dive in right away with your story. So give us your background. You're a successful businesswoman. You've transformed your health. You know, wherever you want to start, however you want to take it, I'm up for it.
Well, Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for having me and allowing me an opportunity to be with your community. So I am Teneshia Jackson Warner. I wear many hats. I am a wife. I am the founder of a multicultural marketing firm that's headquartered in New York. I'm also the founder of another platform entitled the Dream Project. And essentially, I have been on a dream journey for 2 decades. And when I say a dream journey, basically a journey of exploring what was my purpose, what was my passion, and throwing everything at it to activate that passion and purpose in this lifetime. And that has resulted in many things. One in particular, the birth of EGAMI Group. And I say the birth of EGAMI Group because I feel like it's my child.
I
It
hear
was the
you.
birth of the idea, building this business and growing the business. And so I was very, very focused on that for 2 decades. And I was not necessarily always focused on the business of Teneshia, the business of me personally. And over the past 2 years, I've really focused on that. And to your point, Dr. Morgan, here to just kind of share my journey in hopes of giving some tangible tips for others that are really looking to put a priority around their health.
Yeah, and it's so important because that is a common theme that I see is people who have invested so many years and so much energy either into raising a family or growing their career that their own health just kind of is like, oh, I'll take care of that later. I'll do it later, and then later kind of catches up with you. So what was it that really sparked your motivation to take back control of that health and take care of your business, as you say?
So it was during the pandemic, and I'm almost thinking your community. I hope that you all can relate to me, but um, in the pandemic, I think living up under just that level of stress, in addition to being a business owner and trying to make sure that we were positioning our business to survive the pandemic. Luckily, we more than survived, we thrived. That pressure really, over a period of time, I put myself on the back burner. I was eating whatever I wanted to eat how you can go off of eating healthy like for a short period of time. Yeah. For me, it was months on months on months. Mm-hmm. I was not moving at all and really spending majority of my time in one domain of my life. And that domain was, trying to make sure that the business survived the pandemic. So that happened. The other thing is living up under the pressure of trying not to get COVID, but also at the same time, my grandmother, who was very, very vulnerable, and my mother and I, we've kind of been the primary caretaker of my grandmother for years, making sure that she didn't get sick in the pandemic. It was just stress. Well, she ended up getting sick in the pandemic and she went in the hospital, and make a long story short, she ended up passing. And it was very traumatic to lose someone in the pandemic because you couldn't go to the hospital.
Yeah.
She died alone. And it was never I didn't want to lose my grandmother, but I definitely didn't want to I didn't want her to die alone, right?
Mhm.
So fast forward 6 months after my grandmother passed, I had a moment that was a breaking moment. I was in a team meeting and I was just not myself in that meeting, very snappy, and almost I honestly blew up on two of my leaders, and one of those leaders called me after and said, "What's going on with you?" And in that moment, I just broke. I cried. I was so angry that my grandmother died alone in the pandemic. And that was my moment that I knew I got to do something. So what I did first was I put a priority on my mental health. I
Mhm.
outreached and I got a grief therapist to support me in working through the transition and loss of my grandmother in the pandemic. So without even knowing it, that was sort of step one of me saying to me, it's time for you to put yourself back, um, as a priority. Now that opened up a whole lot. I will never forget my first grief therapy session. The first thing that's on that page was the most important business is the business of you. Her name was Dr. RG, and she's been a great partner. And from there, it really just led me on a journey of what is your vision for yourself as it relates to your health. Um, I decided I'm going to start moving again. And I hired a trainer. His name is Delon, DNI Fitness for anyone that's in Jersey. And I remember Dr. Morgan going back to the gym and after not moving for so long, I couldn't do a lot. I was very disappointed because previously I ran the New York City Marathon years ago, but I was unable to do anything. But in the beginning, it was just the little steps of being committed to moving again.
Mhm.
Um, so I'll pause. There's more to the journey, but I see if you got any questions up until this point.
I don't have any questions. What I'm doing is taking some notes. So I love taking notes, and a couple words that have resonated with me are vision. This all started with the vision, and you said, what do I want to accomplish with my health? I think that a lot of people think that health just happens, and it doesn't. It's an intentional, deliberate, you use the word committed, effort every single day to make more healthy choices than we allow ourselves to make unhealthy choices. And then you invested too. And you started with your mental health. I'm a big believer in mental health comes first, always and forever, because if you're not mentally healthy, it's really, really difficult to be physically healthy. And I say we can't master our physical state until we master our mental and emotional state. And so I love hearing this real story. And it reminds me of one of our members, Cynthia, because she had a lot of mental health struggles to work through. And she joined our program and she's like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. I'm going to counseling and I don't know what to do. I'm like, girl, you're already starting. Give yourself credit for what you're doing. Do nothing else besides be consistent with going to your counseling. And I think that people don't give themselves enough credit and they think they have to do all the things and make these
Mhm.
big drastic changes all at once. So as you continue to tell your story, I'm going to kind of highlight what resonates with me as it pertains to other members' stories that I've heard and like what helps them be successful and maybe some traits that they might miss in your story that I don't want them to miss. So keep going. You got the mental health
So
therapy. We got the gym going.
I have the gym going, and you made such good points, Dr. Morgan, on not trying to do everything at one time. So first, it was starting with the grief therapy and being consistent with that and being open to what was being revealed. Second, it was, okay, let's get moving again,
Mm-hmm.
being consistent with that. And I started maybe at first going 2 days a week. And I have such an amazing physical trainer. He knew that like I'm the type that I'm all or nothing, but he said, I want you to try something different this time. because the results what you've done in the past got you the results up until this point. He said, I don't want you to view this as all or nothing, get me in shape in 2 months. And that's typically what I would do with the trainer.
Mhm.
Like, come on, bring it. He said, I don't want to do that. I want to work with you to incorporate this as a healthy lifestyle.
Mhm.
So because of that, he didn't sign me up for like 5 days a week in the beginning. He said, just be consistent with 2. And we did that for months. And then he said, okay, now I'll lift you to more. And I think I went from 2 days to 4 days.
Mhm.
That's where I am right now. And I told my assistant, and this is very important, whether you have an assistant or if you're doing your own scheduling, no matter what, nothing overrides me in this schedule. So schedule the business of me first.
Yep.
And so the business of me, which was the grief therapy on Thursdays at 6 o'clock, and my Delon on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, nothing can change that spot. And I had to cascade that with my partner, because I view my assistant really as my partner in life. I had to cascade that message to her because she had to understand just how important it was for me. So if a business leader in our business called and said, hey, I need tea at 8 in the morning, it's urgent. She had the message. She's not going to do the meeting there because she's meeting with herself.
Yes. Yes.
And so that was very important, that you cascade this new mindset to others around you, because you're going to also be training others what's important to you at this stage in life. And so that was that. Another thing that I did was I got really real with myself around what are some areas or roadblocks that exist in this area that it's time for you to conquer. One, for me personally, it may look different for the listeners that are listening. There were 2 areas in terms of 2 roadblocks that I knew it was time for me to conquer. First, I needed to do a surgery that I put off for years. And it was basically, I had fibroid tumors that were growing. And fibroid tumors are something that very common amongst African American women. And Dr. Morgan, I never hit the problem head on. I would basically go in and tell my doctor, do something very fast. So she did other procedures leading up to it. But in the pandemic, because I couldn't really go to her, and these tumors were out of hand and I couldn't ignore them anymore. And so I had to become comfortable with, I'm going to have to step away from the business for at least 2 to 3 months. And when I say step away like medical leave. That's scary for an entrepreneur. But I did it. I scheduled the surgery. I trained really hard before the surgery. I tried my best to get the business in its best shape possible and told my leaders, I'm out, and for at least 2.5 months, possibly 3 months. I remember writing the message to our clients. I did one-on-one calls with each client to say, I'm stepping away from the business because this year wholeness is important to not only myself, but our entire company. And I want to demonstrate it first. I want to demonstrate it. And, all of my clients were supportive. All of them was like, look, health is important. I remember those conversations. And so stepped away from the business, did this surgery, was not in the business at all. I remember after the surgery having a moment of really understanding my strength and mortality. I thought I would be able to bounce back quicker, but because they cut my core, I needed the entire medical leave time. But the message that I was sending from me to me in that season is you matter. And I'm, the me inside of me was saying to me, so proud of you for putting you at the front and center. So that was a big obstacle I needed to overcome, and I did it. The second thing after that surgery, this next one was very big. I knew it was time for me to master nutrition. I am the queen of fad diets. I mean, if you want to listen, I've done you remember the Atkins diet, I've done it all. Duncan, you name it. I am a queen at being able to manipulate my diet for a short period of time to achieve the result that I want for something. Like maybe it was a book release coming up, or a big moment in time. I can do that. I knew how to do that. But what I didn't understand is, how can I really incorporate nutritional changes into my life for real? And so I hired a nutritionist team, and that team it's Sugar Snap Shift. That's the name of it. And the founders, Robin and Megan, but these became my partners. I remember in one of the first interviews, because my husband started working with the nutritionist too, and she's phenomenal. But this team for me was my team, because there was a level of accountability inside of it that just works for my personality type. But here's the thing. I remember in the interview, when we were interviewing each other to see if we were a good fit, they started talking about having to cook your meals. And I stopped and was like, don't cook. I don't cook. So what are we going to do? And they were honest and said, well, most of the people that we work with, they get the results because as you're cooking, you're learning, as well. And I said, it's not going to work for me. Anyway, start the program. And I remember that first week when I was about to try to figure out another way to not cook, just put that out there. I said to myself, if you don't think about this in a different way and how you can incorporate it in your life, do you really think the results will last? And so I leaned in and said, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to study this list. And the first time that I went to the grocery store preparing to cook all of these meals, I kid you not, I was in Whole Foods 5 hours, just trying to understand, what is this season? What is this? But I was educating myself on what was good, what was not good. And basically I've embraced an eating clean lifestyle. And I fell in love with the version of myself that I didn't even know existed. I love cooking. Now,
well.
This is made for me, you all. I could have used my stove for storage. Like, seriously.
Oh my gosh, that's
how
hilarious.
And I have now fallen in love with cooking and preparing my own meals. I prepare probably 95% of all of my own meals. And I met another version of myself that I didn't know existed. And I got rid of the excuses. Typically my excuse is, I'm running a company, I'm booked solid, I do not have the time to do this. It was an excuse that was keeping me back from a version of myself that I desired to meet. So I had to reprogram that. I had to reprogram myself in that area. So now I cook on Sundays. When I hang up with you, I know the hour that I have to cook my next meal. And I incorporated this into a busy lifestyle. So I'll pause.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot of notes here. I just think that it's really important to emphasize some of these things that you're doing so well, that you've done right, that a lot of people miss, and the first, I think, was the time and the cognitive load. So I think that you avoided the cooking because your subconscious brain kept repeating the same excuse over and over again, which was you don't have time. And you had to break that thought pattern and say, well, this is important to me, so how can I make time? So that's the first thing, is if anyone has an excuse that they're telling themselves, it's usually a subconscious thought that you can change through repetition. But that's really where we use our cognitive brain, which makes like 5% of our choice. We have to keep repeating better instructions to our subconscious brain. And that's how we follow through. So the first thing I thought was, wow, that was a big cognitive load. That was a big amount of time, 5 hours in Whole Foods. Your brain knew that it was going to be work. Your brain also saw that, oh my gosh, her schedule is loaded. She's really busy. Where are we going to fit this in? And so my question to you is, what was the cognitive dissonance? Like, what became so uncomfortable with your current life that you were like, I don't care how much time it's going to take. I don't care how much effort it's going to be. The other thing that I had underlined was you learned. You used that word learned. You were done with the quick fixes. You were done with the Band-Aids, and you came to that point where you're like, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to learn. And so what became so uncomfortable in your current life that the pain of change was worth it?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think for me, at this point, I was wholeheartedly on a journey. And ironically, I can't believe it, but my grandmother's passing is what served as the catalyst for me to lean in to the journey. So once I said yes to the journey, it was just going deeper and deeper and deeper. So to answer your question, what made me the most uncomfortable was just being so brokenhearted when I lost my best friend, and having to figure out, what is life? How do I do life without her? That is what sent me on the journey of, you got to become whole. First, let's become whole and deal with this broken heart, because I had never had a broken heart like this. Never, not like this. And so leaning in there, but then once you start loving yourself, it's contagious. You just want to continue to love yourself. So the first act of love from me to me was the mental health and the grief therapy. The second act of love from me to me was, girl, move. Let's get moving again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third act of love was nutrition. And it's time. It was different this time. It was like, it's time to redesign your life in this area. It's not sustainable to continue to do the crash and burns, the fads, and all of that good stuff.
I know. And I think that there's a resonating theme there of time too. So that Cynthia gal that I was telling you about, she was talking in office hours last week, because we were talking a lot about this mindset, getting off that diet mentality. And I was like, Cynthia, why don't you take the mic? You can preach it, because she just does that. And she's like, you know what? Every single morning I wake up and I give myself the gift of time. And I tell myself, you have time to get healthy. This doesn't have to happen overnight. Give yourself your own time. And I think that's a really recurring theme throughout this, is that, yeah, you started with the grief therapy, and then you started with the exercise, and you started with nutrition, but all of that is just time and energy, and really making yourself worth your own time and energy, and getting out of this chronic messaging that we have to be giving all of our time and energy to other people. And there's one other point that I wanted to make. When the obstacle in the surgery, how you were talking one-on-one with your clients and explaining the situation, and they were all very supportive. I think something that really holds people back from making any change, especially related to how they're managing their time and how they're showing up for others, is the perceived expectation of other people. We think other people are going to be disappointed in us. We think other people are going to judge us. We think other people are going to think that we're being, selfish, or our priorities are out of line or whatever. But I think that that's an obstacle that is a really sneaky one, are those perceived expectations of others. And I think that once we kind of confront them head on, as you did, often we're surprised at how supportive our loved ones can be, and our bosses can be, and our coworkers can be, and our clients can be. Because how, like you said, how am I supposed to lead a healthy company if I'm not prioritizing, if I'm not leading by example? And that goes to your family. I think every woman is a leader in her family. So how do we expect, our husbands, our kids, our partners to be healthy if we're not leading by example? So I just wanted to, give you some kudos there for leading by example, and also just highlight that perceived expectation and maybe dig into that a little bit more. So, and it's a journey, right? I think that you gave yourself time when you recognized it was a journey and not a quick fix. Because if that's your mentality of like, okay, I'm going to go on a diet, then you expect it to be painful for a short amount of time, but it's okay because you're going to see fast results. But if it's a journey, it's like, there's going to be ups and downs. That it takes persistence. And so reframing the messaging in your mind about what you're doing. You're going on a journey. You're not going on a diet. And I love hearing this and getting to reflect with you on your story. So what are some
You are
other...
so good, Dr. Morgan. I need to be taking notes. You are so good because you're like translating this into like wonderful nuggets.
Oh, I love doing this so much. So tell me a little bit more, if you can, about some other maybe perceived expectations that you had, perhaps of business partners or clients, or other family members around that was an obstacle for you related to getting the time off work for surgery. Did anything else come up that you can think of?
I think when you are on a journey, sometimes a transformation, basically the transformation that's happening in the inside, what I realize on this journey, as I transform on this journey to wholeness internally, at some point, the transformation starts to show up externally. And it can show up externally in your actions. It can show up externally physically, like in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something that I realize that is important is, especially for those that are close to you and that you love, you need to bring them along the journey, because if not, it can almost be shocking to see transformations occurring in different areas of your life, but some of the people that are close to you not realizing that, hey, she's doing work and this is important to her. So I think having ahas around the importance of bringing the people that you love along the way in the journey. So for example, I'll give one with my husband. I think at some point he realized, no, she's not doing what she typically does. Like, she's not, like, this isn't a quick fix for teeth. She's really looking to make a lifestyle change. And I think we then had to say, what does this now look like in our dynamic? And some of those things, like, he knows, like, I love whole foods now, or things that I find enjoyable. He respects that and honors that now, versus he's not saying, hey babe, let's go out and have this late night pizza. It's not to say that you're going to deprive yourself forever, but if that was our thing before, like late night eating, which that was our thing, late night eating, he now knows, like, I had to change that relationship dynamic with her. Yes, we can watch a movie, but she's not going to get in the bed and eat late the way we used to. Mm-hmm. So bringing others along the journey. Another one of my dear friends, and Denise, we went to a mountain trip recently, and when she saw me, the transformation was so shocking to her in terms of just my physical body had transformed. She's like, girl, are you okay? Are you sick? What's happening? And I realized, like, wait a minute, you got to bring others along on the journey. I'm like, hey, I was serious when I said I really wanted to lean into journey. I called it my journey to wholeness.
Mhm.
I had to share with her, like, girl, like, I'm for real leaning in. Like, I wanted to master clean eating. Like, I'm on this. And then she could see, like, oh, this isn't a fad for T. She's like doing this. And ironically, she's also my stylist. And so with
She's
her,
doing
she's
great,
like,
by the way. If you guys are
oh,
listening to the podcast and not watching this, she looks fantastic. And I'm like, can you do my makeup?
and so because of that, we even had to like have a talk about life on, okay, T, are you doing what you typically do, like your thing? Or is this for real? Because if this is for real, we're going to have to now design a new wardrobe for where you are now. And so even that question to me was like, no, this is for real. Like,
Mhm.
we're good. Like, let's now start building a new assortment based on this transformation of who I am. And I will say to all this listening, please know I am by far not trying to say I am any form of a health expert. Please know that. I'm just really sharing my personal journey from a place of passion, because it is something that, looking back now, the benefits, some of the benefits is, number one, that expression of self-love from you to you. There is no love like self-love. And I am so proud of myself, me to me, saying, T, you did it. You put me at front and center. When you have, when you give yourself the gift of love, it's a gift that keeps giving, because you're in a place where you are full and you can now express and love and share from a more complete place with others. So I have experienced more connection over this past year and a half, like real connection, that I've probably done in years. And when I say connection, creating moments with friends that I love, moments with family members, moments with my father, I'm doing all of that from a place of wholeness and
Mhm.
full, like, and not from a deficit. When you're
Yeah.
not putting you at the center, you're operating in that deficit mode. Other benefits is, I believe I'm able to show up in business as a healthier person.
Yeah.
So to build a healthy business, your point, Dr. Morgan,
Hmm.
do it from a place of you being at your best state as well. Um, Also, here's something I didn't realize. I knew this from a dream journey perspective. Like, I was pretty clear because I've interviewed so many dreamers, and I love like studying dreamers. Typically, when a dreamer dreams, they're going to inspire other dreamers to dream. Like, it just happens.
Hmm.
What I didn't think about this journey is cascading this vision of journey to wholeness, personally, professionally, to our company. It became contagious. So my husband was like, okay, let's do this. We doing this.
Yep.
He did his surgery. He started working with the nutritionist. My mother really started to look at, what does healthy look like for me?
Hmm.
And it's been contagious. Even with, we are now doing a Fitbit challenge inside of our company, that I'm excited to kick off. So I didn't realize that, you being bold and courageous enough to put you first or embark upon your journey to wholeness will inspire others to do so as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits. And one thing that you said really reminded me of another note that I took yesterday, as I was listening in on one of our evaluations of a new member. And we always ask people, we start with their vision, like, what's your vision? Why do you want to get healthy? How is your life going to change? How is the life of your family members going to change? How are you going to feel? Really future pacing them, because so often they're like, I don't know. and it's like, well, you do know, but you just haven't articulated it clear enough for your brain to follow through. But one person said, I want to do this. I want to get healthy so I can serve God with a willingness and joy that comes from being healthy. And it's not like she necessarily wanted to do anything differently, but like with a willingness and joy that comes from being healthy. I just think doing what we want to do, doing what we feel called to do comes easier. And it's a more joyful experience when we're not constantly feeling self-conscious, and when we're not wasting brain power on crash diets, and when we're not wasting mental energy second guessing how we look, or second guessing our health, or putting things off, or procrastinating, and so I think there are so many intangible benefits to getting healthy, and I'm glad that you explained some of those. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share? I know we have just a couple minutes left, or you can tell people where they can grab your book and learn more about you.
I guess my last thing that I will share is wherever you are, know that it's a journey. I'm still on a journey. I've not reached the destination. I have not reached it. Dr. Morgan and I, we're still on a journey. No, it's a journey, but I will say it's a journey that's well worth it. So embarking upon your journey to wholeness, just know that there are so many different versions of yourself that are waiting to meet you. And so being willing to say yes to what I call the stretch, and being willing to say yes to this journey, the reward is you're going to meet versions of yourself that are stronger than you ever knew. You're going to meet versions of yourself that is more energetic and excited about life and more joyous than you've ever known. You're going to meet versions of yourself that allow you to be, the best wife you want to be, the best mom you want to be, the best, lover of God or contributor in the world that you want to be. All of that is accessible when you embark upon your journey to wholeness. And in terms of where you can stay in contact with me, Teneshia J. Warner, that's my handle on all of the various social channels. And for all of the dreamers, you can get my book, The Big Stretch. You can actually go to www.bigstretchbook.com and start doing some of the exercises. And those exercises are downloadable. Like they're all there, no cost. You can just get them. And if the exercises help you, then I encourage you to also get the book. So thank you so much, Dr. Morgan. This brought so much.
Me too. Yeah, this interview made my day, and I can't wait to share it with everyone in our audience. Thank you. I'll be sure to link up all of your resources and how to connect with you in the show notes for this episode. Bye.